Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Streamed and Screened, an entertainment podcast about movies and TV from Lee Enterprises. I'm Terry Lipshetz, managing editor of National Newsroom at Lee, and co-host of the program of Bruce Miller, editor of the Sioux City Journal and a longtime entertainment reporter. So long time, we're going to go back to the future in this episode, right? We're going to...
And I was going to say to you, I'm not going to make a case about your inexperience in youth if you don't make any about my age, right?
That's right. Yeah, so we're going like, it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but we're kind of revisiting the past in a few ways here because we've got a movie which is I finished third, fourth in the box office this past weekend, and then also an actor who's kind of a little bit of a blast from the past, a little Back to the Future, so to speak. And
very good. You're very good at pitching this. This sounds. Yeah. Have you had to do this before where you had to sell something? Yeah. Okay, good. Well, Reagan is the movie. I went to Reagan on Friday, and I wondered who was going to this movie, because really, is this one that you would put on your list? Oh my God, we must see Beetlejuice, and Reagan. These are the two things I must see. And I realized that it was appealing to what I like to call the Gran Torino crowd, the Clint Eastwood crowd that, always will bring the crowd in. And it's people who maybe see 2 or 3 movies in the theater a year, but it was older people who were at Reagan. Now, the problem with Reagan, and this is my first of several problems, is that it covers too much. It goes back to when he was an actor. It goes, all the way to death. And then it also includes a Russian spy who they've made up. And he's kind of telling the story. That's played by Jon Voight. And Jon Voight has this really bad dye job on his hair at one point. I mean, he's in the dark, but it's way too obvious. And so you think, well, now, wait a minute. If you're going to try and be accurate with all this other stuff, why are we cheating this guy? He does almost like a TED Talk on Reagan, where he's showing slides, and then he has film that he shows at some point to this other guy. And you're thinking, did you set this up for this purpose? Like, do you have people over to the house all the time to tell them the story of Ronald Reagan? It doesn't make sense. Then you get in, Dennis Quaid plays Reagan. Okay. And Dennis Quaid can get the voice and kind of looks like him from time to time, but it's too much of an impression and not necessarily a performance. So that was a real, and I think if I were to do a Reagan movie, because there have been ones, there was a miniseries that got bounced somehow from CBS and put over on Showtime because they thought it wasn't fair to Reagan. I would do a snippet out of his life. I wouldn't try to do the whole life. And I would maybe take the time around the tear down that wall speech, because I think that was very important for him. And then you could use that as kind of a trajectory for telling that whole story. But this has everything in it, and then more. And then he's also riding a horse. So, I mean, where do you stop? I could tell that people were getting bored with it because they were talking a lot during the movie. Grandma usually talks during the shows that she doesn't like.
I can see this. So I kind of even forgot this movie was coming out. It just kind of fell off my radar. But you think about it, he was pretty old at the time he got elected in his first term. So if you are going to tell the whole story of his life, that's already, like, he's already lived a full lifetime to begin with before he even got to that
They
point.
Go back to him as a little boy. They have how he got the name Dutch. They talk about him in the movies. His first wife, Jane Wyman, is in there. And interestingly, may I tell you, I did interview Jane Wyman while he was president.
Oh, wow.
Jane Wyman, before you went in to talk, she was in a thing called Falcon Crest. It was a Dallas kind of like night. And they said, first of all, you cannot ask her about Ronald Reagan. Do not ask a single question about Ronald Reagan. Otherwise, she's going to walk. And so I won't ask about Ronald Reagan, even though that's the only thing people want to know about. I won't ask anything. But it so happened that earlier in the week, I saw her son, Michael. Her son, Michael, was in town for a campaign rally. And I was at somebody's house with Michael, and we visited and whatnot. And so I just thought I'd mention it in the course of the interview. And I said, say, I happened to meet your son, Michael, this last week. He was in town. She says, oh, Michael, he's nothing. Who you need to meet is Merm. Merm is a good one. And I thought, wow, mom is picking sides over the kids. Well, Maureen Reagan got a bigger shout out from her mom than Michael did. But, and she did talk Reagan then after that. But I didn't bring it up.
You did not bring it up.
I was not that person. But that was around the time of Reagan's administration.
Okay.
So fascinating. And there were things in this that if you were around, you would go, oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember that. What I found fascinating about the film is that it does talk about his dementia. It's a touching way of how they address it. But, you know, this is not the ultimate Reagan film at all. I would not put it on my list of all-time best presidential movies, but, you know, it's out there. So you want to see. Have you seen the Clinton ones? Were you familiar with any of those?
No.
Monica Lewinsky.
I had no idea these movies even existed.
Primary Colors with John Travolta as a...
Well, I vaguely remember that one. I don't think I watched it, though.
Yeah, and then we have the Brolins. James Brolin played Reagan in that ill-fated miniseries, and they used a big thing against him that his wife was this big liberal, so she couldn't possibly let him play anything that was positive to Reagan. So instead of having it on CBS, the two parts went into a movie, and they ran it on Showtime.
I didn't see that one. No, the movies, like I'm thinking about the presidential movies that I've seen. You know, you've got Harrison Ford in Air Force One. So that is a tremendous one. And then you look at Independence Day, where, you know, you had the aliens invading and the president there with his big speech at the end. He got back in the cockpit and was back in the air. One movie that does come to mind, like from a historical standpoint, is Vice, the one that looked at Vice President Dick Cheney. That one, holy cow, that, like, Christian Bale.
Incredible.
Incredible. I mean, he nailed Dick Cheney. It's like, who am I watching? Like, I'm watching Dick Cheney on the screen. He really fell into that role.
Where if you pick something that isn't so well known, because Dick Cheney really flew under the radar during a lot of that administration. And I think that's what made that successful, because like, oh, I'm learning something here. Whereas with W, which was about George W. Bush, it was a little too much of playing the notes, you know? This is the note about that. This is the note about that. And so I think that's where you kind of lose track of those. I think if the filmmakers stick with either a lesser character or if they do a slice of one of their lives, it's going to be a lot better for the film in general.
Right. And there's, you know, you look at some, moving off of kind of the presidentials, but just in the biopic department regardless, you take a movie like Walk the Line, right, that looked at Johnny Cash. They had that little snippet of him as a boy, but it really just focused in on kind of that period of where he was breaking in up until he kind of finally married June. It didn't cover every aspect of his life. It didn't try to do too much. It just kind of got into the meat and potatoes of like how he grew and then where he finally got to be. We didn't need to see, you know, in mid 1980s when he wasn't recording peak music anymore and then got back in, and then he had like that extra boost late in life where he was working with Rick Rubin and did some of his best work, you know, near the end of his life. It just kind of focused in on like, here's Johnny Cash at kind of like the peak of his career, but also some of the personal issues he had. And I thought that was such a tremendous movie. And some other ones, you know, that just kind of, they're all over the place. Like we've spoken about this before. I hated that Elvis movie, that one that was the recent one. And I just, I didn't think he was that good in it. I know he got nominated. A lot of people rave about it. I thought the movie was terrible. I thought it was like all over the place. I thought it focused way too much on the Colonel. You know, it was more of a Tom Hanks movie and not a Elvis movie. And it just, you know, those are the things that I didn't like about it.
For years, you asked yourself, how do I save more money? But now it's, how do I preserve my money? Someone's asking the right questions. And at Sandy Spring Trust, we'll answer them one-on-one. From asset management to legacy and estate planning, you can feel confident in what's to come. What's your next financial destination? Visit sandyspringbank.com/wealth. Wealth and insurance products are not FDIC insured, not guaranteed, and may lose value. Wealth products offered by Sandy Spring Trust, a division of Sandy Spring Bank.
Yeah, I think you have to look microscopically with these topics, because then you're learning something more, and then you're going to feel like you haven't been cheated. When they're trying to do an impression and they hit those high points, that's why Bohemian Rhapsody, they were very clever when they did that. They showed him performing at...
Oh, you're talking about like Live Aid at the end?
There you go.
Right.
With the Queen one, when they showed him at Live Aid and he's performing, what they did was a like move for move copy of this thing. So there was no way that he could lose in doing this and then using the voice, right? And then they put that out there before the movie even got released. And you saw this and you said, oh my God, it's Freddie Mercury. He's just absolutely great at that. And then the rest of the movie, there isn't that much in terms of hitting it on the mark. But if you preempt it with that little bit that you're going to go, this is exactly him. And I think the movie about Elton John was much better because it gave us stuff that we didn't know. It also wasn't trying to be an impression. Anyway, so Reagan is my reason for bringing this up. I will say, though, this week we have Beetlejuice, going to be one of those really big films, only because Michael Keaton is going back to a greatest hit, and it gives you a chance to remember how funny he was when he was doing comic roles. He's played kind of the editor, the boss, the founder, all these kind of, if you will, boring people. But here's a chance for him to kind of open up and do a lot. And I think when people see that, then they'll revisit his other stuff and he'll be in a better position. From what I hear, it's incredible. And that's because I got Tim Burton with it.
I'm ready for this movie. I mean, I think I feel like I have to try and get there this weekend if at all possible. But, it's one of those films. It's an iconic role. It's one, do you want to go back and do it again? Because he did it and it's been so long. It is a way to kind of go full circle also.
It's not like when Pee Wee Herman tried to do Pee Wee Herman like 30 years later. With that makeup, you can't tell what Beetlejuice looks like. So he can be old and still, hit the notes.
It's kind of fun though for him because he did those comedic roles early on. And then as he moved into kind of doing the Batman and some of those later roles, he got much more serious, right? And you forget how funny he could be. So it's going to be nice to see him move back into that type of role.
Yeah, I want more comedies. Mr. Mom, some of those real goofy ones that he had. And there were a lot of crappy TV things he did too for a long period of time, just trying to get something going. I'm anxious for that. I am. Interestingly enough, we go back to those kind of old roles. And one of the ones that we look back on is Back to the Future.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of attention now because it's been made into a musical. And it's on Broadway, and it's huge, huge. It's kind of where they pick things from the first film that you'll remember. You'll go, oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember that part. Leah Thompson plays the mom in that. And she also now has a new TV series called The Chicken Sisters. She's one of the Chicken Sisters. But in the course of an interview I had with her and Schuyler Fisk, who happens to be the daughter of Sissy Spacek, I asked her about this and what it was like to be in the audience at a musical about a character that you played one time before. So anyway, The Chicken Sisters, if I can give you a little intro on that, it's one of Hallmark's first H+ series. H+ is a streaming service that the Hallmark channel is putting out there, and they are a little more adult than the Hallmark Christmas movies that you see. It's not all cocoa and fireplaces and sweaters. And there is a lot of, it's very Desperate Housewives. It's about two sisters who run rival chicken restaurants, and there's a reality show that kind of pits people against each other in communities. Well, they come to this small town to pit the two chicken restaurants against each other. Leah Thompson and Wendy Malick play the sisters, and then the daughters of Wendy Malick are part of the whole mix. Schuyler Fisk is one of the daughters. How they change and flip and flop, and it's full of all those one-liners that you see on a dish towel. Look somewhere in a store, where you're a kitchen store, and it'll be like, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. It's that kind of stuff. And it's narrated by Margot Martindale. And Margot is such a hoot that she really pushes this thing along. But anyway, this is an interview with Schuyler Fisk and Leah Thompson. They're talking about the Chicken Sisters, which is coming on H+.
The two of you are in a family business in real life. So what can you apply from that to this kind of production?
Yes, my daughters, Madeline and Zoe Deutsch, are actresses, and my husband, Howard Deutsch, is a director. And we all work together and have worked together in different ways. So yes, running being in the movie business and running a restaurant are very closely related in terms of anxiety and stress, and also just like the need to collaborate in a very seamless way. So yes, I felt like I could bring some of that to this, and because I work in the restaurant and at Franny's with my daughter-in-law and my son, and so I could kind of use that. It's dramatic.
Yeah,
it is. Schuyler, could you relate to this too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, working with family, especially family that you love and respect and trust, and you care about my parents I respect them so much in their creative lanes and their careers. And so I love getting their input. And it turns out like we all share in that. Like they come to me and ask for my input on their things, which I'm so honored by. And, it's a nice back and forth. So I think that sort of mutual respect and that sort of, the trust that's there is something that I think carries over into a family business of any sort.
When you both read this, though, I couldn't believe, I've seen 3 episodes, and I couldn't believe how much this twisted and turned. I mean, I get certain people figured out to be the good people and weren't necessarily the good people as it wore on. Did it strike you right away that this is not just what I think it's going to be?
It's not always like that spelled out. It's not always that black and white. And I loved that it is kind of a roller coaster, and we all, I think, have those days and moments of being good or bad, or the best versions of ourselves or the worst versions of ourselves. So I think that all these characters also have those moments for sure.
And I think it's also like the perfect kind of drama. You've got this small town, you've got these 2 restaurants that are warring. Things are kind of okay. And then all of a sudden you plop in a reality show, a reality competition between these 2 warring restaurants. And I've been on reality shows, and I can tell you it doesn't bring out the best in people. So it's just, it's the perfect catalyst for excitement and drama and romance. I think at the construction of it by our showrunner, Annie Mabane, she just really could keep a lot of balls up in the air. She keeps all these characters spinning around in your head in a way that's very skillful, and it's really fun to watch, and it's really fun to act.
Did you have any chicken cook-offs
in real life? No.
Well, yeah, I would think, let's see who's the best cook of everybody.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. It could happen, right?
Definitely.
Never say never.
Did you even eat any of the chicken? It's there like a prop, but, do you try it?
I didn't, but my character, Amanda, doesn't eat chicken. She's a vegetarian, so I rolled with that.
And did you try it, Leah, or did you say, oh, too spicy?
No, I'm a veteran of 45 years in front of the camera, and I know better than to eat food in front of me.
Well, how did all of you bond? I know that there are supposed to be some kind of frictions, but did you have any kind of situations where you say, well, let's all go out together, or let's do this together to kind of see what this family is all about?
Well, Schuyler was wonderful. She had lovely events at her home. She's literally the perfect one. I know not in real life, probably not totally, but from my perspective, she's a great actress, a great chef, has the two most beautiful children and a fantastic husband. So she had little parties at her house, which brought us all together and was lovely. That was really fun. But I feel like we all bonded pretty quickly. They did a great job casting.
Yeah, it's hard not to want to hang out with all these women and the cast. It's just like everyone's so interesting and cool and talented and unique. And
but does Margot Martindale ever figure into this, or is she just the voice only?
For now, just the voice.
Because I kept thinking she's coming to town. She's going to be the one who's going to judge everything. And there you are, you know?
That would be cool.
I think she's a god, so perhaps we won't see her because she's kind of god.
Could you do a second season of this? Does it end so well that really there is no second season?
Oh no,
this go perfectly to a second season and a third and a fourth. Could go on forever.
It's chicken land. We're just turning the world into chicken land. That's how it goes, right?
I mean, it's these people's lives, you know, and our lives go on and we have different chapters and there's so much to explore, especially with families, relationships.
Did it remind you of something? I thought of Fried Green Tomatoes, and I don't know why I thought of that, but it had that kind of sensibility, if you will. And I don't know if you saw it, and I also don't know where this is. Where is this town? Because wasn't it in Kansas in the book?
The book, it's in Kansas. And we never really say on the show where exactly it is. It's kind of small town, southern small town USA. Maybe we'll learn. Well, maybe in season 2 we'll find out what state we're in.
We definitely asked, but they didn't want to tell us.
Do you say, well, can we do an accent? Should we do an accent? Is there an accent here, or how does that work?
Well, you didn't hear an accent?
No, I did, but if it's like Kansas, is that really that?
Like where is our accent from?
Yeah.
When they had a coach, and it was kind of more it was kind of more what did they say they were doing, Texas? Or anyway, we tried to do the same thing. But the truth is, and no matter where you are, everybody's accent's different. Even in, Minnesota, my girlfriends that grew up had a completely different accent than I did, in the same town, the same neighborhood.
Oh yeah, you did, didn't you?
So yeah, and so I think a wonderful thing about Southern accent is that people put on more depending upon how they're talking or how they want to be presented. And the thing I love about a Southern accent is that it's got this love of the language. And and all these crazy idioms that I got to say all the time, which was really fun.
Do you remember some of them? Do you keep them in mind and say, I'm going to use that one? That one was really good.
Well, it's just starting to pour rain out here in New York. So I have to say, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining.
I wanted to write them all down just because I thought I can use this. I have a place for this. It should go. Leah, can I ask you, what is it like to have a Broadway musical made about a film that you were in? Is that just like the weirdest thing ever?
It is really weird watching someone play my part. Yeah, it is weird, but it's lovely. I mean, it's really, you don't expect something that you do 40 years ago for people who were never even born when you made the movie to love it. You don't expect that. It's like an amazing gift. I feel so grateful to have been part of Back to the Future.
What goes through your head when you're watching it? Do you remember scenes and things that happened, or?
I kind of watched most things, honestly, as a director. So I was more like interested in how they adapted it and what they changed and how they, put things, compressed scenes and stuff like that. But yeah, of course you remember stuff. It's weird. Memory is so weird. It doesn't have anything to do with time.
And Schuyler, when you're dealing with a mother who's kind of mean to you, how do you relate to that?
Wendy's such an incredible actress that I just sort of felt like we were there. I felt for Amanda, and I felt it from Wendy, and I felt also a very mothering presence from Leah's character.
Sure.
So I didn't feel like I feel like Amanda definitely has that figure in her life. And I also feel like with Gus, Wendy's character, I feel like there's no lack of love there. You know, she just shows her love in different ways. And I don't think like her little jabs at her daughters are really sort of out of coming from love. And she's just had a hard life, but she's doing the best she can. And but I don't think it's like I don't think she's just being hard on us to be hard on us. She's just trying. She wants to push us and show us in different ways. One thing my mom always says is if she knew better, she'd do better. And I feel like she's just doing the best she can with the resources she has.
All right, Bruce, thanks for that interview. Sounds like an interesting one coming to the Hallmark kind of like subscription channel thing.
It's their streaming one. And they're changing a lot of things up. So you want to find out about H+, because it has for the lack of a better term, like a buyer's group in it. You'll get things. You'll get free greeting cards. You'll get a lot of stuff. It's like what their old Gold Crown stores used to be. I think this is kind of what they're doing on TV. And then also you'll get programming that isn't on the regular Hallmark channel.
Will you be able to stream all of those Christmas movies year-round?
Yes, I think you will. I think you'll have Christmas anytime you want that. It's there and ready for you. And those new ones are coming out. They're ready.
I feel like I might have to mention this to my mom. She might need a streaming service.
Oh, she would love it.
I think so.
Although you remind her that some of these new ones are a little out there. And then you have Lacey Chabert has a reality show about doing celebrations.
That's right.
Searching for the Mr. Christmas. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are very interesting, different. I think you want to check it out at least once.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm the target audience for this channel, but there's definitely, this is definitely for somebody. It might not be me, but it's definitely, it's fun. And it's great to see Leah Thompson because she kind of, after the Back to the Future ride, she pretty much fell off my radar. I mean, I just haven't, I know she's certainly been working over the years, but I just haven't seen a whole lot of her just for the things that I've watched.
She's been on a lot of Lifetime series. So if you happen to watch Lifetime, which probably isn't in your wheelhouse, she's on those things. But yeah, she loves doing this kind of stuff. It's like it's less than 10 episodes. So you can stream through this pretty quickly, and yeah, you'll get a sense of it. But don't try and make sense of it because it twists and turns so much that whatever happens in the first episode ain't what's happening in the third episode, and Mama don't like it.
Bruce, do you enjoy a good cocktail at night? Like
not.
pouring up some? No?
Isn't that weird? Because I'm a Coke-aholic. And so I will drink a big Coke all day long, and then I realize I should have started sooner.
Yeah. I don't mind like a White Russian every once in a while,
A White Russian. Can I tell you? You know who I'm talking to, and we'll have him next week? The Dude.
The Dude? You're talking to the Dude?
Jeff Bridges. He has a second season of The Old Man coming out, and we're going to be talking to him, and maybe I'll get a little Dude question in there for you.
Maybe. The Dude abides. That's all I know. The Dude
Will there
abides.
be a Dude too?
That is such an iconic role. But it's not like he ever got stuck in that too. I mean, he's done so much. I mean, he's had so many great roles over the years, but for me, I just like always come back to the Dude. But he's never been typecast. He's done so many things. So this will be fun.
The one thing I always remember, having interviewed him a number of times over the years, is that one of the things he does when he's done with a project, he lets his hair grow. He doesn't cut it until he finds out what the next character is going to be. So then when you get something like the Dude, he could have long hair and be kind of messy because that's just how he's coming into it. So if you're an actor, don't cut the hair if you don't need to.
Yeah, he's just, he's so many great roles. My favorite recent role, do you remember Hell or High Water?
Yes, he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, I believe, for that.
Yes, that movie. He was with Chris Pine was in it. I love that movie so much. But there it is. It's another role where it's like, you go back to him, it's like, yeah, it's the Dude, but man, I just felt that was one he'd hold. I need to go watch, like, I never watched The Old Man, but I threw it in my up next list in Hulu, and I feel like I got to go back and watch it. It's just, I have too much to watch, not enough time.
Yeah. Before we talk about it next week, the old man is really active in season 2. He was pretty passive in season 1, but in season 2, he's doing a lot of stuff. So if you want to see him ride a horse, ramble around in the back of a truck, drive every kind of vehicle you can think of, the old man.
All right. Well, on that note, thanks again for listening. Be back again next week with another episode of Streamed and Screened.